Just a quick note, our agenda says April 10th, but assuming it's the 17th.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right, I'll call it to order. Call to order the EDA meeting, April 17th, 2023.
Make a motion to adopt tonight's agenda.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next, we've got an approval of the February 2023 EDA minutes. Any discussion, corrections? If none, I will take a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve as submitted.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. All right, item number 4, Christine Costello, Connexus Energy. Thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Thank you, Julie. We welcome Christine to our meeting tonight. Christine has replaced Bruce Saylor as our Community and Economic Development Representative for Connexus Energy. Christine will be here tonight and review the services Connexus provides through their economic development programs and discuss what they may be able to offer in the update of our business retention and expansion program. Connexus was a major participant in the development and approval of the current BR&E plan in 2015 through 16 and provided $5,000 of the $12,000 cost of the project. As this program is 7 years old, it may be time to review and update the plan to reflect the new challenges faced by small businesses in the post-pandemic environment and the evolving business climate that we exist in today. Connexus participation and support of the BRE efforts are critical to establish the base for moving forward on this plan. Michael Drager with the University of Minnesota Extension Service and one of the primary authors of the current plan will meet with us at our May 15, 2023 meeting to continue to identify update needs to this document. Staff will also meet with the East Bethel Chamber of Commerce at their next executive committee meeting to enlist their participation going forward with this update. By our June meeting, hopefully we can coordinate with Connexus, University of Minnesota Extension Service, and the Chamber of Commerce on the direction for revisions to the plan. And at this time, I'll turn it over to Christine for her presentation.
Thank you so much, Jack. Thank you, EDA President, member EDA Commissioners, for having me this evening. My name is Christine Costello. I've been on the job for 5 months with Connexus Energy, so I'm still pretty new, but some background on me. I come from a local government background. My degrees are in city planning. I spent 11 years with the city of Richfield, and I spent 6 years with the city of Cottage Grove here in Minnesota, and then 2 years early on with the village of Lombard, which is a suburb of Chicago. So I come with that local government background and understanding of the dynamics and the needs of a community. So tonight I have a short presentation, some background information that I'm sure most of you know on Connexus, and then a little bit on BR&E I can share. So start with the first slide.
That's it.
All right.
There we go.
So Connexus, we are the largest electric cooperative here in Minnesota. We're over 1,000 square miles. We serve 70 cities and townships and 8 counties. Recently, we have a little bit of Mille Lacs County as well, and roughly 144 members. Most of it is made up of residential at 92%. On the next slide, we're cooperative, so we're member-owned. We have our annual meeting on Thursday, so you're more than welcome to attend in Ramsey at 4 o'clock is the annual meeting of the board. So we encourage you to come. $8.1 million was given back in cash back in 2022. As part of the board, they have a foundation that I help assist with, and we have areas that we are focused on, from youth, economic development and workforce, environmental issues. We provide scholarships for all the local high schools and so forth. So we really are interested in giving back to the members in our territory. Many of you know we were formerly a member of Great River Energy. As of January 1, we are a customer now. We still have a great relationship with Great River Energy. What this allows us is to provide better rates to our members by being a customer. It also allows us the ability to be a little more flexible in terms of our overall power that we provide in terms of that energy mix. Whether, as you know, states put a bill this year to be more carbon-free by 2040. So we definitely are focused on solar and battery power, and that can be seen kind of on the next slide. We do have 20 megawatts of solar, and we currently have 15 megawatts of battery storage, and we're working on an additional 10 megawatts of battery storage in Vandas Heights. That just allows for a business to have that security, that backup, knowing that there's that battery storage there. And if the slide was in play mode, this slide shows you rooftop solar and then the EV chargers that we're seeing throughout our territory. In 2013, when rooftop and EV chargers kind of got started, rooftop solar we had 19, and EV we had 5. And now you can see by all the dots there that it's just a growing area of people interested in putting solar on their home, on their business, as well as going towards an electric vehicle. In terms of businesses, we have a ton of rebates. We also have renewable energy credits as well. So many businesses, if they're fairly large, have somebody in our business accounts that they can speak with, or I can put them in touch with somebody from our key accounts who can walk through their business and see if there's rebates in terms of lighting, if there's custom air compressor. They're willing to walk through a business and make it so it's personal to that business. We also have renewable energy credits. Some businesses want to be and have that renewable energy, but don't have the ability to put it on their roof. With these credits, they are buying like a credit or certificate saying, hey, I get my power from solar or battery. Those are tracked. It still allows them to have that renewable aspect. So we're more than happy to work with a business one-on-one, because every business is different. So it's not necessarily would conform. So we're always open to do that. And then lastly, in terms of business retention and expansion, I'm happy as before to participate. I have experience in business retention expansion. I started it in Cottage Grove. They had never done it before when I started there in the early 2016. Their version of BRNE was just shop at all the businesses, but I wanted that hard data. So I worked with Michael Darger at the U, who does a great job of putting all those resources together. I then proceeded every other year to do a BRNE, kind of downsizing that initial survey, and focusing 1 year on industrial, 1 year on commercial, and then using what we found out from that information as our kind of our strategic work plan for economic development. So I'm happy to participate in any manner in which you would like me to participate, whether it's interview, there's additional staff at Connexus that would be more than happy to participate. In terms of financials, that's something we can look at as well. I know we participated that way last time. So as you move through the process, just keep me in the loop, and I know I'm happy to participate in any way possible. So with that, I'm happy to take any questions you may have of me.
I believe that we'd be very interested in your cooperation and participation in the future upcoming BRE in whatever form that it brings.
Absolutely.
Right now, we just started talking about
Right.
starting it back up again, so I would definitely invite you to all future meetings that we have that involve that, and welcome any participation that you could give us.
Absolutely. I'm here. So I like the BRNE process. I really think it's important for a community to do. And so any way I can help share information that I have from my previous work experience, I'm happy to do that as well. So whatever kind of capacity that Jack and staff need from me, I'm happy to do.
I think that'd be very good, because the discussion that we've had so far is to not necessarily do another full-blown BNRE, but a slimmed down version to revisit it, and where you brought up that you did it every other year, I think that would be some valuable information. You could provide us some very good insight on that.
Absolutely.
So Christine, so how long ago was it that you started it with Cottage Grove and then?
So I did it in 16,
Okay,
18, we did it in 19, and then I switched roles. I went from the economic development director to the community development director.
okay,
But they continue it, that process through. And we tried to do it every other year, because every year gets to be a little tedious on
Right.
businesses. We initially started, we had a fairly large business park that was fairly
Mhm.
industrial based. So we started with that kind of first,
Okay.
and kind of peppered in some commercial type businesses. We found involving the chamber was very important. They have a special
Right.
connection to businesses that local government doesn't have, I believe. I think businesses sometimes are more willing to trust the chamber.
Mhm.
City, my capacity was, what are you gonna find wrong with my business? And I think what I enjoyed in the interviews was hearing both the pluses and the minuses, and then being able to solve an issue. For example, we had issues with internet in our business park, having 2 providers and one not being very connective. So having staff reach out to Comcast and CenturyLink and make that connection. So it was really exciting to see that business then, as simple as having that better internet connection, but solving that for them. That was one thing off their plate,
Okay.
so.
I think the thing that we need to figure out and we need to discuss amongst ourselves as a board is, so this was 2016, which was a while ago. We're a different city now. We have a lot more businesses. I know the desire is not to start from scratch, but it might be helpful if you would be willing to be involved to see what we did last time, if there are useful data sets that we have from last time that we can build upon. But I think, yeah, it's just helping us chart that course on, here's what we have, but we're a new city, but what else do we need to do? And maybe that's the U of M person as well.
Yeah,
But we need to figure that out.
I'd be interested in seeing if they have another program that, okay, we did the initial one,
Right,
do we have a follow-up type of program?
right. I think we still need to do business interviews.
I'm
But-
sure,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, but,
Or if there's new businesses that were
Right.
not interviewed
mhm,
2016 to,
mhm.
Actually, the U has several different types of offshoot programs that complement
Okay.
this. And that's one thing we can get Michael to address when he comes here next month. And that was the one thing that I was envisioning is maybe kind of keep the basic core of the BRE, because I think this communication with the existing business is extremely important.
Mhm.
But then if there's something else we can explore beyond that that's relative to our needs, and that's the avenue we should look at.
So, just jumping ahead a little bit, so if we have the U of M here next month, I think we all agree we'd love to have Connexus's help and participation. Would it be possible that you could be here next month for our meeting as well?
If I'm here, yeah, I
Okay.
happily will come back.
Yeah.
That would be super helpful,
Yeah.
I think, to have all the parties involved.
Yeah,
Yep.
happy, yeah.
You're welcome anytime you want to come. We
Yes.
just don't want to wear you out, so.
Just bring my coffee.
Okay.
Oh.
No, I'm happy to participate and come next month if I'm not busy, so definitely.
yeah.
Michael's a good person
Yeah.
and knowledgeable resource, so he's a good one to have on the team.
Yeah, and
Perfect.
Jack can supply you with some of his famous coffee as well, if
Uh-oh.
needed.
Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
Yeah.
Depends on how thick you like it.
Okay.
So
More-
oh, go ahead.
There's I see you have a pretty significant amount of your power is generated by solar and wind. And I see that there's a lot of resistance to solar gardens in certain parts of the state, feeling that productive farmland is being, and there's not a lot of productive farmland left in East Bethel. It produced a lot of houses. Do you have solar gardens within your coverage area, or do you buy it from gardens that are out, for instance, and same with wind down on the Buffalo Bluff and things like that?
I'll start with the easy one. Wind, we don't own any windmills or anything, so
Yep.
that wind we buy from GRNE.
Sure.
A portion of that percentage. In terms of solar, we have some smaller solar gardens in Ramsey that we Conexus owns. Otherwise, again, it's out of GRNE's portfolio. Solar is definitely community-wise a touchy subject, I know, having been on now both sides. There's something called agri-solar where you can still have solar panels, but the land can be grazed from cows to goats to whatnot.
Sure.
Like, for example, one of our solar gardens, we have perennials and beehives, and we produce honey. So there are other options. They're talking about solar over wetlands is another opportunity as well. So you're not taking that farmland. But when I was in Cottage Grove, yes, many farmers are getting out of the farming business, especially in the metro, because they want more acres. And the solar is lucrative.
Go northeast from Stacy.
Yep.
Or southeast from North Branch. Yeah. I know that these iron lithium batteries seem to be the new thing. You got two guys that have both worked in power plants here. Is Conexus going to be building any of those, do you anticipate?
That I do not know. I can check and
I was just curious.
Email. I'm just not certain. I'm new enough that I'm just not sure if they're that type of battery. So I will check and I will email the group for sure.
Thanks.
Oh, absolutely.
Is there any information you need from us on where we need to go to start picking this thing up again? Is everything essentially contained in the old report, or do you need any other additional info from us to kind of get you up to speed on where we are?
I've read most of the report already, so I'll definitely look through that. But it might be coming and meeting with you, Jack, or Aaron, and kind of having a tour of the city and knowing what developments taken place maybe since the 2016 study to get a better feel for the community, just that I'm newer to this area in general. That would help me. And then maybe attending the meeting next month when Michael's here to see what he has to say and so forth.
Anytime that you'd want to come up for the tour, just let us know and we'll work to your schedule.
Awesome. I appreciate it.
So were there any takeaways or lessons learned from what you started in 2016 and then the subsequent years when you did the different components such as industrial and?
For me, it was the communication, and making sure that I knew what available resources were for businesses. Businesses are focused on running their business. They, need a one-stop shop. So if they could call me and I could tell them, open to business, consideration for a bridge loan, or Deed has this loan available if you're a manufacturer and you are looking to expand. They have JCF for job creation and the MIF and so forth, and putting them in touch. Or I'm looking to expand and just knowing I can get you through the approval process. Come meet with staff. This is what, the process is. Taking the negative, if I could turn any of those into a positive, no matter how small, it felt like a win for me that they could trust me and had a positive experience with the city. And I think that varies community to community.
It does, yeah.
Yeah, so it's just having those resources available makes a big difference.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Anyone else?
Well, I have a question regarding for the EDA, regarding the last BRE thing. I am wondering what was implemented, all that work was done, what was implemented from that survey? We got a lot of good information out of it. I saw a lot of comments from businesses that they need this, community activities, that kind of thing. And I don't recall seeing any of that kind of stuff happen, so I'm just wondering what got implemented to help the businesses as a result of that BRE?
So what happened afterwards?
Yeah.
There was kind of two areas. One that was called red flag items, items that needed to be addressed right away, and the city addressed as many of those as they could at that time. And then with the other items, there's, I believe, 4 main areas that was found lacking in, and so the city actually, right, not actually the city, the participants of BRE took it upon themselves to form groups to address those items, and those groups worked for up to a year to a year and a half to 2 years afterwards, implementing some stuff, and that's where these Bethel jobs came from. That's partly where some of this internet survey stuff came from,
The broadband.
the broadband study. There's
I
2
think
other
just
ones.
And I think just kind of overall, the business interviews, the connectivity with the businesses and the assistance with Anoka County, with assistance with help opening new businesses. I think it's hard to give it a direct, here's the result, but I think just the
Quantify.
communication really helped, and I'd love to see that happen more again.
It opened up a lot of doors
It
that
did.
I look back and I'll talk about specifically one of the companies we interviewed was Tech. They're a structural steel manufacturer. Again, that's right down my alley. And, he was complaining about how he had a hard time finding help. And he could get welders, but he couldn't get welders that could read a shop drawing and do layout so that he could know where to cope the beams and where to punch the holes and et cetera. And, I think he was surprised when in the midst of the interview, we just said, how about Anoka County Vote Tech as a source for you? And, I can't say now, 6 years later, whether that worked out for him, but he was having serious problems finding help, like to the point of, you know how to read a shop drawing? You want to come out and work?
Well, I think in just East Bethel jobs, we had a great committed committee, and just talking about setting up the job fairs, the website, we had signs we created just to let people know within the community, because our outflow of employees was so much more than people who stayed within the community to work. I don't know what the quantitative, I don't know that we have, did that change? I hope it did, I think it did, but we don't have any way to quantify it.
Okay.
But we sure took a stab at it.
The other thing, so far as following up on it, when you look back at the changes that have happened with COVID and
Yeah.
how people source jobs and that whole thing, this coronavirus really changed a lot of things, obviously. That's a very trite statement, but it's really flipped things upside down in certain ways.
Yeah, that's a whole new element to this that will be interesting to find out.
Workforce is always an issue.
Right.
I've heard it at the Anoka County Chamber has a manufacturing cohort, and the industrial users are saying the same thing. Kids aren't going into trade anymore, unfortunately, and it's changing sometimes the mindset of parents is what it comes down to. You can still make a great living being an electrician or journeyman, all of that. And there's this assumption you have to go to a 4-year school, and that's not true. And so I know employers are starting to pay for that education and that training. And so that's a tough nut to crack, is the workforce.
I think up here, one of the things that we kind of another thing we mentioned to him was, you know, go into St. Francis High School,
Absolutely.
because there's not a lot of, St. Francis percentage-wise probably has less kids going to school to get art history majors than your normal suburban type of high school. And, I mean, the number of kids from St. Francis that work at the trades or skilled manufacturing, I think is fairly high. And gotta have the kids doing it.
I think one other outcome, I was not aware, and Tim and Brian and maybe you knew this, but just that our chamber was such a huge help. It was a great chamber back then, but I think everybody who got involved, I was really interested and pleased at the commitment with all the people in the community. We had huge teams.
Oh, yeah.
And I think it still, I think we could recruit those same people back today.
The ones that still live here.
Well, yeah, well, there is that.
I mean, I noticed because, I mean, Butler and I did a bunch of interviews together, and they didn't have him listed as an interviewer on that report, but that's just neither here nor there. But yeah, what the leadership that Doug provided, I thought was outstanding. He was so committed and just in on it.
Yeah, that was really great, so.
Yeah, and by doing it again, we may find new people, bring new people in.
Right,
Yeah.
so we're looking at you, Christine.
Yeah, form new friendships and new
Yeah,
connections,
yes.
and it's always good to bring people together, and usually when you do, good things happen.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
If there's
Appreciate
nothing
it.
else. we can-
Christine, I'll follow up with you here by the end of the week, and we'll see what our next get-together will be, and then we'll get something set up then for
Perfect.
May the 15th.
Awesome. I love it.
Thank you for
you.
coming up. We really
Thank you.
appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
All right, so we'll move on to item number 5, town hall meeting.
The East Bethel Town Hall meeting is scheduled for Wednesday, April 26, 2023, at the East Bethel Senior Center in City Hall. The format for the meeting is, the meeting will start at 6 p.m. with an informal session with council, elected officials, guests, and staff in the Senior Center. We'll adjourn to City Hall for opening remarks by the mayor and updates by elected officials, and then a general question and answer session in the council chambers. We are requesting that the EDA staff a table for the informal session in the Senior Center. This will be an opportunity to present EDA activities to the public. City staff will be available to assist at the table. Staff in the EDA can review the types of displays and information material that will be needed for this presentation at the at the meeting tonight. What I printed out in front of you would be an example of a poster board that we can do. And again, some of this stuff is just put on there for kind of filler, but I think it's kind of an overview of what we can get on there, and we can put additional information if anybody has anything that they would really like to see on this. I think it's a good thing to do. One of the other things I thought maybe we could do, if we have a computer set up, maybe we can play that last drone footage we have. Might be interesting to see. But I just wanted to go over this with you tonight to see if anybody's got any recommendations or changes just to the template that we have on this big sheet that you have in front of you.
And I think, it's great to have the board, but what's really going to be important, I will be there, I'm committing to be there. I think if as many of us are able to attend, to talk to people who are there in person and answer any questions, or, talk about what we've done, I think the face-to-face is huge. So I will commit to be there for the entire time.
I'll be there.
Great, thank you.
Good. One thing we could add to this is, if we're gonna do the BNRNE, we're probably
Right.
gonna need
Look
volunteers.
for volunteers, you bet.
Yeah.
That's a
We
great
can,
idea.
we can start recruiting, or at least
Right.
getting, are you interested? We can, you know, start getting their information and then start talking about it again.
That's a great idea. Could we have maybe just a, what do you envision? I mean, maybe just a quick snip about what BR and E is and what we did, and then they can
Yeah.
have a slip they can fill out and leave with us?
We
Yep.
could have,
We could have
a
some
second,
handouts.
a second one, just like this,
Yeah.
that, a very brief overview, what a volunteer would do,
Right,
what their commitment would be, which is the very minimum. There's some training to interview, and then we typically went out and interviewed, I think, 2 businesses. That's how it was split up, that's what the typical volunteer did.
right. Or take part in a different committee, whatever
Or-
we decide,
yeah.
or,
Yeah,
Yeah.
some way that they wanna be involved, and
right.
here's
That's
a
a
way
great idea.
we would welcome the help, absolutely.
Mm-hmm,
We want people to engage in our community.
we do, yeah. I was just, this is kind of a tangent, but, I know I'm signed up for other city notifications with meetings or events. Do we, I don't think we do, but do we have the option to have residents sign up for email alerts on our website?
Yes.
We do, okay.
Yes.
I could not find that on the main page, but,
And we can provide that information too, if anybody wants to sign up for it.
Okay.
Just do some handout material.
okay, that would be great.
Jack, I think this is a great little poster you have, and I think it offers a lot of great information, especially the what and the how.
Mhm.
But, and maybe just by way of suggestion, maybe add a line or maybe a section of just the why, because oftentimes I get that question when I talk to people about the EDA, is like, well, why is that important? Why do you do that? That sort of thing. And it's just an extrapolation of that first section there
Yeah.
to facilitate
Right.
decision-making and.
That top section is gonna be completely redone to give a little bit better explanation
Yeah.
of what you're talking
Is
about.
answering the question, because you're going to be talking to people who may or may not be familiar with the EDA, so answering that question, why this is an important thing for citizens to be involved in.
And you know,
Yeah.
one of the most important things that seems to have been left out on anything, but it's to market and promote the city for economic development.
Right.
And that's the line we really need to have on everything that we do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Tom, I think that's a great, just more of a bullet point,
Yeah.
like you said, the why and the how and,
Yeah, I tried to give
Good
Jack
suggestion.
about 10 different corrections on this before the meeting, and said, no, this is just an example, just an
Yeah.
example.
okay.
I think this is great for citing out some bullet points, and I would really be interested in doing something regarding business retention and expansion. I think people have, I think just that people haven't heard enough about East Bethel. So then sometimes then when they do, you get just such a weird response from them, and I think sometimes it's just that they don't know us. And so I just think we need to get more out there a little bit, because we're not so removed from the cities, and now they're having so many inner city problems that I think there are a lot of businesses wanting to move a little bit away from the cities, to be away from some of that, but to have some opportunities to expand their horizons and expand their businesses. And I think we've got a lot of, opportunity, and of course there's some hurdles and everything, but I think that's part of it as a project, and learning about it and learning to communicate with the businesses that are here and find out, I think we would find some of them might want to expand here, and some of them might have some ideas for, enhancements they need, that they don't have now that they want. And I think there are a lot of ways we could facilitate and work with people to help them do that. So, and I just think that we're gonna see a lot more opportunity for things, because it seems to me kind of the central Twin Cities is kind of chaotic right now.
And before we do a final, we'll do a couple of changes in this one. I'll just send it out to everybody for some additional comments too, to make.
Oh, that'd be great. And is this kind of a poster board
Yeah,
kind
it'll
of
be
thing?
like on a 2x3 poster board.
Okay.
And we can do 2, we got plenty of room to do 2
Okay.
if we need be.
sounds good. Anything else on the town hall meeting? Any questions on the format or? Okay. Thanks, Jack. That's great. Item number 6, EDA budget proposal.
The Economic Development Authority and City Council are required to approve and submit a preliminary levy to Anoka County by September 30th of every year for the city EDA budget. The 2023 EDA budget levy is $136,200, and the 2023 EDA budget expenditure is projected to be $133,800 at this point. The EDA cash balance as of March 31st, 2023 was a negative $40,174.40. The negative balance reflects the $120,000 transfer that was made to the general fund in January of this year. The city will receive the 2023 levy installment amounts from the county in July and December. These payments will make this account whole and provide an approximate balance of $85,000 at the end of the year if there are no additional unbudgeted expenditures during 2023. Staff recommends that the EDA set a levy that is a minimum equal to the 2023 amount of $136,200. The 2024 EDA budget at this time is proposed to be $135,000. This is a preliminary amount. This amount would be used to support the executive director, city planner, community development director, finance director, and administrative support for EDA-related work, EDA projects, and marketing efforts. The maximum statutory levy that can be adopted by an EDA is 0.18% of the previous year's estimated market value of all property in the city. In 2023, the total estimated market valuation of all property in the city was $1,752,111,100, which could have produced a maximum levy of $317,658. Staff recommends that the East Bethel EDA recommend a minimum 2024 budget levy of $136,000 to the City Council for their consideration in the adoption and approval of the preliminary 2024 city budget.
Questions from anyone?
Well, I have a question. If the EDA gave the general fund, transferred $120,000 to the general fund, in my mind, we don't need that $120,000 for the EDA, and it should just stay in the general fund, and our budget should be, 15,000 or something, whatever. So where am I wrong on that? I know I'm wrong, but where?
If I understand your question, what we do in determining the revenues are broken up by different sources. There's the property tax revenue, and then there's the EDA levy and the HRA levy. We could do away with the EDA levy, but then we'd have to raise the general levy by that amount to compensate for that. This is just a way of showing what expenditures are used in different categories to support different city activities.
Yeah, I get that, but the EDA isn't really using the money if we're constantly transferring it.
Well, we do that every year. There's a transfer made every year.
Right.
One of the reasons we're showing this balance, which I think is good to have because you never know when you might need it for a project, is because we got reimbursed $59,000 from the county for the broadband gap analysis report. So without that, that would be much less. It could be put to reduce taxes, but again, if something comes up, then we're gonna have to take it from the general fund. It just depends on how the city council wants to handle that.
Yeah, I was just curious. I don't have a problem with it. I'm just curious at why we do things the way we do sometimes.
So Jack, in our professional services fees, do we have room if we decide to take on a BR&E project? Do we have funds in there for that this year?
We don't have them budgeted per se, but we will have a balance in that account. That's why I'm saying it's good to have the little things. We could always redesignate for that fund category.
Got it, okay.
And this is the preliminary numbers we've worked with too, so
Okay,
we're just basing essentially what it was in prior years based on the historical pattern. So that's something we can always change too as we go into the preliminary budget's adopted in September.
right,
So
right.
we're just starting to work on this. We know
Okay.
exactly probably, we don't want to increase this levy this year, so we want to keep it the same as it was last year, which would be the same as it was the previous year. But then we can move those around for what's needed in those different budget categories.
Jack, is the 1,200 more for this next levy cycle, is that just the cost of living increases for salaries?
The $1,200
So
for what?
from 135 to 136, 200?
It's because we haven't nailed down all of our expenses yet, but again, the maximum we're gonna recommend, or the minimum, we probably wanna just keep it the same as it was last year, is the 136.
So it's a minimal increase, in other
Correct.
words.
That's correct.
Jack, we got a pretty heavy bill for the 2022 professional services. What did we spend that much on professional services on?
That was that broadband gap analysis study.
Okay,
And then we got that money reimbursed to us again.
that's came from that we got,
That's correct.
yeah, from the county.
Any other questions, or we're looking for a motion to recommend the minimum 2024 budget levy?
I will make a motion to accept the 2024 proposed budget of $135,000.
And we're looking for 136.2,
Oh, I didn't,
just on,
Last
The
line.
135 is budget expenditures, this is budget levy, so.
I'll amend my motion.
okay. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any questions? Otherwise, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that motion carries. All right, item number 7, business activity and staff report.
The following are a summary of development projects in the city and their discussions with potential business locates and expansion that has occurred since their meeting on February 21st, 2023. Washi Commercial Finishes at 21335 Aberdeen Street, a commercial painting and wall covering business, has begun the expansion of their facility. They are adding a 7,200 square foot addition to their existing building and constructing a 1,400 square foot cold storage facility with a fenced storage area for parking of company vehicles and trailers. Completion date for this project is scheduled for the end of June 2023. As everybody well knows, the demolition of Speedway at the intersection of 187th Lane and Highway 65 has been completed and site work is commenced for the holiday station on this site. The completion date of this project is scheduled by the end of June 2023. The Elvidge project is on schedule. Roads and utility work should begin by no later than the end of June, and the first phase of the housing component should start in the fall. We've had several discussions with the developer, and he has given us these general dates, so he's just about ready to get started on that. Quick Trip is still on schedule for a late May to mid-June start. Completion of this project is anticipated by late summer or early fall of this year. Here's the best news of all. Certus Financial has a potential buyer for Cambia Hills. Negotiations are in the final phases of discussion, and an announcement is expected soon regarding the reopening of the facility. The new operator would offer the same psychological residential youth treatment services that was provided by Cambia Hills of East Bethel. The reopening would restore this vital service and 90 jobs that were lost with the closure of this facility in 2021. So there should be an announcement coming within the next couple of weeks of the finalization of those deals.
Have you heard any estimates on date of opening?
They want to try to be open by December,
Okay.
but with the financing stuff that has to go on, I'm not sure that will happen. One of the things that we're going to discuss at our work meeting on May the 1st is the potential for conduit bond financing for the facility. They're gonna need about $13 million of potential buyers looking for that. So conduit bonds the city can participate in that, and we've been totally reinforced and told by both our bond counsel and financial representative and their bond counsel that conduit bondings expose the city to no risk. It's just a means of getting this financed in an expedited way. And the reason they're doing it in this same fashion, it's broken up into two bond issues. Anything over 10 million does not qualify as a bank qualified bond, which means that the people that buy the bonds don't get the tax exempt benefits of
Okay.
it. So that's why it's broken up into two, and that's why it's done this way. Also, the city can charge for being the conduit holder. We can charge up to 1% of the issue, which is $100,000. And this would pay any cost that we have, plus the charge for being the conduit for the bonds. So we're gonna discuss this at our May 1st work meeting. We'll have our representative from Ellers here and the bond counsel for the potential buyer, Dorsey Whitney, will be here to review all that. So if anybody's interested in an in-depth discussion of this, tune in on May the 1st, and that'll be the first thing on the agenda, and I'm sure there'll be some good information on that. But everything is finally starting to look like this is gonna be a done deal, and hopefully they can get things going and be ready to open that facility.
Thank you.
And just to add a little bit, they're only gonna take 32 kids this time, so they're only gonna have one kid per room instead of two, so it won't be as big as, but they're still gonna employ over 90 people too, so
Okay.
it'll be 90-some jobs, so.
And another thing that's changed too is they've worked out a lot of different agreements with the Department of Health and Human Services, which Cambia wasn't able to do. DHS has seemed to be more willing to work with them than they were with the previous operator. And essentially, what this potential buyer has done is negotiated an agreement with DHS that their costs are gonna be what the revenue is gonna be from DHS to support it.
Okay.
There was a big difference in Cambia Hill stuff, and with the COVID things and everything else, it was almost a perfect storm for their failure. So there's been lots of changes with DHS too, so this appears to be a good, sound financial endeavor going forward. Meetings, the staff has attended the East Bethel Chamber of Commerce Executive Committee meeting and AC Red meetings in March. And we met with one local business to explore expansion possibilities within the city. We've had another inquiry that we're looking into, but we haven't had any information back from them since they approached us last week. On another note, the city finished 2022 on a positive financial note, and will begin 2023 with a tax rate that is the third in the lower third of Anoka County municipalities. For pay 2023, East Bethel's tax levy of 0.9% was the lowest in Anoka County. The city's tax rate has dropped from 59% in 2015 to 31.761% for 2023. The city will receive its 2022 audit report at the April 24th, 2023 City Council meeting. And I did attach that table that shows where we are in relation to other Anoka County cities in terms of tax rate, and just a little explanation on how to basically compute property tax. There's still a lot of other variations in there. That's a very general way of doing it, but it's somewhat accurate. So we're real proud that we've been able to keep our taxes low relative to other cities here, and that we're constantly moving up into that, hopefully the middle part of that lower third. So we've had a Blaine and some of these other big cities that have these huge commercial tax bases, so I think we've done really well in that respect.
And I'd also note that the first four cities on this list, Oak Grove, Ham Lake, Linwood, now then, do not have any infrastructure such as city water and sewer,
Yeah.
which makes a big difference. And so comparable cities, if we factor those out, we're third lowest in the county.
And just one other thing I'd like to add, that Viking Meadow Golf Course is gonna open up again this year. They lost one of their investors, So they're gonna be open up for a year and now they're in talks with another investor, so maybe next fall something might happen, but
Okay.
Okay.
they're gonna open back up, so.
Is it the same owner or
Pardon me?
the same owner or different?
No, it's the same owner, yeah, yeah.
Just,
They had some issues with mercury in their
Right.
greens
Right.
for snow mold, and I guess that the investor wasn't real thrilled about that, so. I've never heard of it, so.
Right.
But, I was over there Monday and they said they've got another investor that's
oh, good,
looking at it, so.
okay,
We'll probably know something by middle of the year, or by the fall, what they're gonna do.
that sounds good. And thanks to Jack for forwarding that AC Red, survey
Okay.
to everybody, and
Yeah.
hopefully if you haven't filled it out, I think there's still time. So just, they would love our opinion, so everybody fill it out. All right, city council report.
I got a couple things. This comes from the Highway 65 Coalition meeting. One of the projects that MnDOT will be doing in 2024 is resurfacing Highway 65 from, I believe it's County Road 10 to 217th in East Bethel.
That's gonna be fun.
It's gonna be fun, but we'll have nice new highway.
Yes, needed.
And they will be starting with some of the infrastructure works in late 2023 to get a jump on that. On our April 3rd work meeting, we discussed the community development director position. And instead of hiring to fill that position, some members of council are in favor of eliminating the community development director position. So, of course, we have our town hall meeting coming up, April 26th. And Sunday, April 30th, the fire department auxiliary is hosting a highway cleanup on Highway 65 from the stretch of 221st to 237th. They'd be looking for any volunteers to come out, and I believe lunch is supplied afterwards. If anyone is interested in that, meet at St. Andrew's Church at 11 a.m. on Sunday, April 30th.
Okay.
Tim, do you have anything to add?
Nope, you got it all.
All right.
I've got one thing I'd like to add. At the town hall meeting, MnDOT will also be here.
Okay.
And they're gonna have their proposed plan and layout to address their intersection improvements beginning at 99th Avenue to 117th Avenue through Blaine to address all those congestion problems. It's a very innovative design, and I think it'll be interesting for everybody to see. So they'll also be at the town hall meeting.
Yep, that was really interesting to see. They laid out a plan that was about 15 feet long. So that to encompass all the intersections and designs, and it's gonna be really interesting, really neat.
Well, good. Well, thank you. That brings us to item 9, which says adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. We are adjourned. Thanks, everybody.